Hello, folks. I hope everyone is doing all right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, when or wherever you may be. Now, today, as you can see by the title of the video, I decided that we needed to go back a bit in the time. We need to go back to 1946, after the end of World War II. And we need to look at the economic factors that drove the United States to become a manufacturing hub of the world. We are going to talk about it, okay? And I'm going to try to reduce the renting as much as I can, but if I go up into the deep end, I hope I can control myself because this is a very vast subject that needs to be properly analyzed. Now, let's start with a little history lesson. Okay? Number one, the United States entered in World War II when all of the countries had been in war, continuous war, total war for many years, since 1939 at least. So you have to understand this. I once heard an analogy by a political analyst that said this, and I think he was perfectly correct in describing the situation as such. He describes the situation as the United States came into a boxing fight mid assault when both or when all of the other people fighting in that boxing match, whatever you want to call it, were already tired and bleeding. With this, I am not disregarding the sacrifice of American soldiers that died, for example, in the Normandy beaches. No, not at all. What I am talking about is what happened because of that, and I'm also doubting much of the intentions of the entire military and economic powerhouse behind the entire war effort. Because you see, when the war was occurring, a lot of American companies, they earned a lot of money. A lot of money from the government, and then the government, after the war, Europe had nothing. And if you don't know what I'm trying to tell you, is this. Imagine, for example, Portugal and Spain, it's a different situation, and I will talk about it. In a separate video because I think it deserves a separate video. But the entire European continent, okay, from Moscow to the shores of France in the Atlantic, and the UK that was not invaded but it was bombed back to the Middle Ages, the entire European continent was destroyed. Industry, rail, roads, basic infrastructures, all of it was completely destroyed. And then the Allies arrived and they divided Europe in half. One half went into the Soviet Empire. The other half went into the American Empire. And this is how I'm going to describe it, because this is exactly what happened, okay? I don't believe in Santa Claus, and I don't believe in merry stories about good intentions and all of that. No, I'm too pragmatic for that. I never believed in Santa Claus or anything like that, okay? To me, that is all nice myths to keep you nice and quiet and not doubt the intentions of those that are best than you. And this is a fundamental difference between almost all Europeans and Americans. You believe in Santa Claus, we don't. You don't believe in Santa Claus and childhood dreams. We don't believe in awards for second best and oh, you participated so it's all good for you. No. And I'm not trying to be crude, I'm not trying to be ironic, I'm being pragmatic, okay? If you are on a race and you end up in second, you didn't win. You participated, well, good for you. This shows that you will not give up. But another person won, not you. And this is something, sorry, even my mic gets excited. This is something that people need to understand. You need to understand the basic principle of what life is. Life is not bloody dreams. Life is reality. Life is facts. Life is things that happen to you and to your world. You cannot wish away your problems, and you cannot wish away to be better. If you don't do things, you won't get nothing, unless you're some kind of a rich prick that gets everything that he wants or she wants without budging. And the problem is that the United States, I think you all, a lot of you, especially the middle classes, you got this idea that if you worked hard enough, you could get everything that you want. But from the get-go, the system was rigged. And this is something you cannot understand. And to this day, you still cannot understand. And whenever anyone like me or any other person tries to tell you this, tries to speak with you about this, you do not seem to be able to bloody understand what we are talking about. And I'm going to try in my videos to not swear so much, but this is something that really annoys me. I'm not annoyed that people have different ideas from me. That is absolutely normal. I would be suspicious if that was not the case. What I am annoyed about is people that do not see reality as it is. After 1946, the United States of America sold everything to Europe. They sold steel, they sold food, they sold cars, they sold appliances, they sold bloody everything. Chemicals, medicine, all of it. Because there was nothing here. It was all destroyed. France was devastated. Germany was completely devastated. Germany, that has always been the industrial engine of Europe. Like it, don't like it, Germany and Poland. These two countries, alongside with others like, for example, the Czech Republic, they have always been the industrial hub of Europe. And they are still that. And in the East, let's just make a little pit stop. I will go to this in another video. In the East, the Soviets took their share of Europe and they turned it into a slave-based society. All of those states, they were slaves to the Soviet Empire. And this is something you have to understand. They called it something else. Some revivalists of communism in this might say, "Oh, but we had everything. We were taking care." Oh yes, of course. A nice bowl of soup and a piece of bread for the slave to behave himself. And tell him he's very good, that he's working for the Communist Party, and that all is good. It's the same thing as working for a swastika. Working for a swastika, for a dollar sign, or for a hammer and a sickle, it's the same shit. It's all slavery in disguise. This is why I could never be a left-winger, and I could never be an extreme right-winger. Because both of them are forms of slavery. Slavery is what is in charge. And are we not slaves? We can vote and we can do that. Yes, but you are still slaves if someone can make your livelihood depend on their decisions, not yours. And this is something that you need to understand before we continue any further into this video. Now, imagine this. There was nothing here. American companies had an arrested, captive area in which to sell their products. They loaned money. They sold cars, they sold tractors, they sold food, medicine, chemicals, all of it. And this lasted at least up until the early 50s, and only after in the 60s but even before, so a couple of companies began to do it, but this lasted until that period of time. And after that, Europe and Japan especially slowly began to reconstruct their economy. So we started to produce our own things, we started to produce our own chemicals, our own medicine, all of that, and it evolved and it evolved and it evolved into what it is today in Japan and in Europe. And after the collapse of the east of the Russian Empire, Eastern Europe joined in, and for a period of time, even Russia joined in. That until that little twerp of the KGB, Putin, came into power, and he decided, you know what, I want to install another Soviet empire. And thus we are here. And right now we have a lunatic in the Americas that wants the American empire back. And I'm not going to mince words in saying this. Both of them want to make us slaves. And this is something that each and every European has to understand. The Canadians, you have to understand it too. And I know a lot of you are understanding. They want slaves. They want countries that will jump when they say jump. And they are only thinking about themselves. They would destroy the entire economy of Europe so that they could have something. And this is why people like Mr. Orban from Hungary disgust me. Because they are traitors. They are traitors to each and every European. Because me and a lot of other Europeans, especially those in the EU, we are saying this. We want to get by ourselves. We want to have our own rules. We need to have our own ways. We are not going to bow down to any master. And if the Americans saying that you are going to elect a nice democratic president that will come all flower power and everything will be as before, you are deeply mistaken. Because we have already went down that road and we don't like it. You want to have allies, you want to have people that will help you if you are in need or that trade with you, that all is good, you have it. For that, all is good. But to dictate any kind of internal policies or external policies to Europe, that ship has long gone. That ship went away when Canada entered, for example, when Canada entered the SAFE project here in Europe. It went away when Europe made agreements with China and with India. It's now going away when Canada is making an alliance between all of the countries, serving as a let's call an ambassador between the two worlds, and in doing so improving the relationships between all of these countries and all of these blocks. Do you think this will stop if you elect a Democrat president? Are you really that delusional? This is why when I go into most of the Democrat pod shows and podcasts, and shows and videos and all of that, I say this: you are right in defending vote Democrat, but you are wrong to think it will solve all of your problems. It will solve diddly squat. Because you will still have the MAGAs inside of your borders. You will still have the Republicans. You will still have the thousands of little Donald Trumps running across the board. You will still have extremists in the far left, what you call far left, for us it's just left, or it's not even left. It's more some kind of conservative alternative. When you do that, okay, when you do that, you can solve all of. You can elect a president that will normalize relationships, that won't threaten to invade Greenland or go to the bathroom in the middle of the night and send out a tweet that crashes a couple of markets. You may have that, and in my view, that will be extremely beneficial for you because you can keep up with this illusion. But to think that you will have any kind of authoritarian voice over other countries or any kind of soft power, you are very badly, you are delusional. Look, it's the same thing with, look, this reminds me in a different scale, in a different way, what happened with Brexit. The British had similar illusions to yours, and it didn't work. Look at them now. Now, with every look, with every fail of character or end of work that Keir Starmer might have, he is trying to repair something. Pardon. But even he can see that. And you have that lunatic of Farage and the Tories and all that screaming, oh, no, Brexit betrayal, Brexit betrayal. They want to turn the United Kingdom into some kind of little America that is going to make things even worse. And yet, I continue to see the media in the United Kingdom prop up that man as some kind of messiah. That messiah is going to definitely sink your country. It's going to kill it. Because no way Scotland is going to stay in that clown show. I'm not even sure that Wales won't get out of that clown show. And then we will all be stuck in your little England and fade back into nothingness. There are no more empires in that way. The world is too polarized. There are too many focus of power. You have focus of power in South America. You have them in Africa. You have them in India. You have them in China. You have them everywhere, my friends. That world does not exist. And to continue to grab on to the 1946 world, it's a fool's errand. Stop it. And then I went ranting on. What I'm trying to tell you is simply this. What Mr. Trump wants to create with his tariffs, and now he has doubled down on it, the court has told him you cannot have tariffs, so he's using a couple of obscure laws to embargo and even impose more and more tariffs to the other countries of the world. You know what the rest of the world is doing? We are looking at you and saying, well, you still have the lunatic in charge, right? Okay. And we are continuing with business as usual elsewhere. Do you think trade has stopped between Europe and Mercosur, or between Europe and I'm talking about Europe because I'm sorry, but this is where I am, and this is where I see. When you consider my videos, consider them from a perspective of a European, okay? Because this is where what I'm comfortable with. But we are all looking at you and we are saying, Canada is saying, okay, the lunatic continues with his lunacy, let's carry on. And everyone carries on with business as usual. Keeping an eye on you to make sure that you don't go Venezuela on us and, I don't know, bomb Greenland and steal a couple of seals or some shit like that. We are all doing that. But if you think that if the United States goes into Iran, that any of us will move one finger to help you, You are deeply mistaken. We will not move one finger unless we need to do it to defend ourselves. That is the only way you will get involved into any of your wars. Your wars, you know what? You want to know what caused this entire wave of immigration into Europe? One of the factors, I would say, one of the factors that contributes to more than half of the dislocated populations, you want to know? American greed. You, the Russians, and even the Chinese, in a twisted way, but they are more calm with what they do. They do it when they need to do it. You all have caused the troubles that we have in Europe. You caused wars in Syria, you caused wars in Iraq, you caused wars in Israel, you caused those wars everywhere. In Africa, selling your weapons to both parties to earn money. All of you caused these wars. And now you sit back and you say, oh, we want to continue to do it. And then you are surprised when us in Europe told you to, I won't say it, but move away. Like Bill Connolly would say, move, go away, has not so much a strength as one big, quick, fuck off. This is what we are telling you. Because we don't want that shit. We don't need it. We don't want it. Europe wants peace. This entire situation in Ukraine, it has its origins back in Washington and in Moscow, where the two lunatics have been playing together. And this is another one I hear. The Democrats saying, oh, this is all Putin's fault, you know? Yeah. Look at it. He's been behind all of this. No, you idiots. All of you have been behind this. No, I keep talking about my dad. No, my dad was a very intelligent man. He was. And he always used to tell me this. When you want to know where something, a movement, an idea, an event comes from, you just go back and see who's profiting from it. Is Russia profiting from this shit? Well, Putin is keeping his power inside of the country. But almost 2 million dead in Ukraine. Who knows how many people dead of cold, of hunger, of poor medical treatment inside of Russia? Around. And these are, let's call it, non-optimistic numbers. Around 4 to 6 million people that ran off from Russia. A completely destroyed industry, roads, infrastructures, all of it destroyed because of this stupid war. And they continue to double down. And meanwhile, Mr. Trump continues with his cloneries of peace agreements between Ukraine and Russia and this and that. And meanwhile, Putin continues to kill civilians in Ukraine, murdering them. And Ukraine was in their corner in their country, and no one was threatening Russia. But that's a subject for another video. What I'm trying to tell you is this. Donald Trump wants to rebuild the reality of a world that existed in 1946. A world that no longer exists. This is something you need to understand. That world does not exist. And it cannot exist. What are you going to do? You are going to burn down factories in Europe so that we will buy your shit? Are you crazy? You don't even have enough manpower to do it. Excuse me. You don't even have enough manpower. You don't have the resources. And it would take decades to rebuild it. 1 minute. Sorry about this. I had a bit of an allergy attack and I had to stop the recording. Well, at least this way you know I'm not AI. Now, continuing. The world that Mr. Trump wants to recreate, it doesn't exist and it cannot exist. Okay, it cannot exist. You cannot even military force yourselves to do it. Because guess what? Guess what? Soldiers, they don't fight for ideologies. They might fight for ideologies, but you need to pay them, you need to feed them, and especially you need to have something behind you to support those soldiers. And you don't have it. Even American weaponry is composed of parts that are sourced in Canada and that are sourced in Europe. And Mr. Trump saying things like, you want to not have terrorists, then you have to produce them inside of the United States. Do you have any ideas how much time will that take? Look, you want to know why a lot of European companies like Portuguese workers, and I will tell you why. Because we are highly adaptable. Meaning, if you get an average European worker, if you get an average Portuguese worker into a certain task, and you teach him, that person will be quicker to learn than some other workers. And I'm not trying to polish the turd of my country or some shit like that. I'm telling you the truth. There are a lot of look in things like, for example, civil construction. Okay, installation of electrical systems, of plumbing, of a lot of things. Get a Portuguese and get a Polish, and we will do the job, and we will do it well. Why? Because we are adaptive people. There are a lot of similarities, and we are completely different. The only bonds that tie us is that we are Europeans and Catholic, most of us. That's all. But what I'm trying to tell you with this, and I'm not going to rant away because I want to keep these videos as clear as possible, is this. The United States won, so to speak, this economic might because it had a captive business market, which was half of the world. And this was the way that the United States propped up its economy. This is why in the 1950s, and I hear the MAGA revivalists talking about that, a person with one salary, usually the man of the house, he could buy a house, he could support a family, and he could send his kids to college. Because you had that enormous wave of money coming in. And then what happened? Then the companies that were profiting from this started to think they were spending too much money with the workers back home. So they started to get those jobs, those hard jobs that they needed to pay a lot of money for, and they got those jobs and they installed themselves elsewhere in the world. And that is not necessarily bad. This is something you also have to understand. I'm not talking about, for example, having children working in factories making shoes and all of that shit. That is wrong. Whatever picture you painted, that is wrong. But for example, the United States, instead of having a factory in Illinois, having the factory in Mexico to produce a part of their mechanization, and then sending those parts to the factory inside of the United States and assemble it all there, that is not necessarily bad. It comes with a cost, and the cost is American workers lost their relevance. And you let yourselves lose that relevance. You don't strike, you don't have proper unions, you have interest groups. And even within your society, you have this idea that this must come from the witch hunts of the communists in the 50s, in the 60s, whatever. Okay, you seem to think that unions and communism are the same thing. They are not. Communists don't like unions. Unlike what they also say. And this is why left-wing propaganda, to me, they can also go sit in the curve alongside with the fascists, because you are the bloody same. Communists use the unions just like the fascists use them, to force workers into a mold, into a social position. You put people in that social position and you hold them there. And they are dependent of you. But what happened here in Europe was, and that was also happening in the United States, was those unions became social entities. And they began to fight for the rights of the workers, for the workers to have health care, for the workers to have time for themselves, for the workers to have rights in their workplace, for the workers to have things, to have time. And while that was propped up in the United States by those companies that were selling into Europe, as Europe and Japan and the rest of the world rebuilt itself and started to advance to the societies that we know today, the United States remained a service-based society. And that depends in economical ties between a lot of countries, and also the petrodollar. And Biden, Sleepy Joe Biden, that no one likes, and before him, other presidents like Obama, they were trying to transition this society into something else, because they knew perfectly well, just like every economist in this world, that the petrodollar is destined to fail. We are using less and less and less and less oil, and we are going to use less and less of it. Number one, because it's ending, it's getting consumed, and it doesn't come back. You don't have any cow giving oil. And number two, because we are using alternative energy sources. And while Europe, and especially China, run away into getting renewable energy sources, the United States was doing the same. And it started with these presidents that I mentioned. Mostly with them. And now, out comes Mr. Trump, and he simply ends it. And he has sent the United States back to a loop that, look, right now, I don't even know. I will tell you this. China is about 5 or 10 years ahead of Europe. Okay? And the United States is about 30 years behind Europe in terms of alternative energies. Even a small country like mine, Portugal, okay, we are already around in 70% of total green energy. And it's accelerating. This is not something that stays that evolves at the same rhythm. Okay, this is something that if you evolve to 2, then you go to 4, then you go to 8, then you go to 16. You understand how these things evolve? It's like this. And it's going to come to a time when you are going to have, and for example, and this is just a small comment. The European Union, for example, has taxes on products that are produced using polluting methods. This is why things like palm oil, this is things like petroleum-based chemicals, they all have high taxes. Why? To force the companies to use alternative methods. Now, your companies are going to try to produce those products and they are going to try to sell them off. And you are going to be trying, if you are able to sell into that market, you are going to try to sell into a market where your products will be twice or three times more taxed than the products that do not do it. Do you understand the dimension of this catastrophe? Look, if I was an American businessman, I would be taking all of my money and taking all of my expertise and moving to Canada or to Mexico. Because you simply cannot work with this. You can look. If the United States wants to be some kind of golden isolated state, you can be. But pretty soon, the money to prop up that army is going to end. Already in this moment, as we speak, I heard an American military expert saying that the United States is already allocating production of military means to South Korea. South Korea is already producing military elements for the United States. You don't even have the industries inside of your country to produce weapons. You have a lot of them, just like the Russians. The Russians still have USSR shit they are continuing to dump into Ukraine. But that will end. Even war... Sorry. Hit the mic again. Even war is evolving. Even war is turning into something different. I'm pretty sure that in a decade or two we will reach a point where even nuclear weapons will become obsolete. Because something worse than it will come out. Because that is the nature of war. That is the nature of humans. Well, I think this video has went on for enough time. Look, I'm going to try to end this with a simple statement that will encapsulate all that I'm trying to tell you. The world in 1946 was a completely different place, and you cannot return to it. Change is inevitable. You are not living in the same world. And more, 1 minute. Sorry, it's like the universe itself doesn't want me to put out this video. And more, you are going to be confronted with a reality that is completely different from the one that is being painted to you in your media in America. You are going to be faced with a world that will be completely alien to you. And when that happens, I'm afraid of the reaction within the United States. I really am. Because I don't know how people will react. Because from what I've been seeing in vlogs, in videos, in media, in all of that, I don't think Americans have the faintest idea of what is happening, what is really happening to that country. Look, the world is changing. It's not the same. And your current administration, it's burying your country. I would tell you this: they have already damaged your country for decades to come. It will take decades to repair the damage that has been done, if you are able to do it. And it's not going to be a it's not going to be a fast process. It's not going to be an immediate process. It will be like a death with 1,000 knives. It's going to be little things. It's already happening. You are just not seeing it. And when you come to the realization of what is happening, it will be too late to do anything about it. You could stop this right now if you had political will inside of your country. But you don't. You don't. All the nice words of the Democrats, all of that, that's was diddly squat. The Supreme Court overthrew whatever, the tariffs. And he said, you're going to have to return the money and all of that, which is a tax to the American people. What did he do? He said, he used some obscure laws that have nothing to do with this, that he's twisting and turning. I'm going to put the 10% tariff. Then it was 15%. Last I heard it was 25% tariffs. More of the same. And you want to know what the reaction of the world is? You want to know? The reaction of the world is this. Oh, okay. This is the reaction of the world. We are going to continue. Why? Because we have to. Because time does not stop. If today I die, if today you die, the world will continue to turn. Some will miss you. I hope some will miss me too. But the world will continue to turn. For God's sake. And you need to understand this. Because only when you change the way that you think can you change the way that you act. This is extremely important. Well, concluding, the world of 1946 does not exist, Mr. Trump. Thank you for listening to me. Sorry about all of these events today during the recording, but hey, at least you know I'm not AI. Okay?